The foreign direct investment has been part of globalization for decades. And according to United Nations, FDI around the world decreased by 2% to about 1.3 trillion US dollars. And this was driven by disruptions in global supply chains because of the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine. And in Kenya, the country is planning to tap about 2.5 billion US dollars in terms of FDI by the year 2030. And there are elaborate plans to tap into these resources. What is Kenya doing to ensure that it becomes a major, or it continues to become a major player in the African FDI industry? Remember, the country is second to South Africa in terms of jobs created, as well as the number of greenfield jobs created in 2024. And of course, Nigeria comes third. Joining us this evening, we're talking to the Kenya Development Corporation Director General Norah Ratemo. She will be explaining to us what is the role of KDC in the FDI value chain and what the institution is doing to uplift the well-being of businesses here in Kenya. Good evening and thank you for joining us. You're watching us live from our national headquarters, KBC. My name is O'Brien Kimani and this is Inside Government. I told you last week we shall be coming live to you from our national studios here. And so we just want to kick off the conversation right now by first of all getting to understand what is the role and mandate of KDC as explained by the law. Thank you very much indeed, Norah, for joining us tonight, and we're happy to see you.
Thank you very much.
First of all, help our people understand what is the role and mandate of Kenya Development Corporation in Kenya socio-economic development.
So thank you very much for having me, Kimani. So first of all, Kenya Development Corporation is the premier developmental financial institution for Kenya. We're fully owned by the government of Kenya. KDC provides financial solutions to investors. We do provide this through concessional loans. And we also provide using two instruments, either debt or equity. Besides financial solutions, part of also what we do is also provide business advisory services in which we're trying to elevate startup companies, giving them support in terms of governance structures, their business plans, their strategies, and also their operational efficiency models. Thank you.
Very good. And when you look at, I mean, since the three institutions were collapsed to create KDC back in the year 2020, what would you term has been the highlights of KDC?
Well, I think that's a very interesting question. We pride ourselves as being one of the successful mergers that government has done. Mm-hmm. So KDC was formed out of three other developmental financial institutions. That was ICDC, IDB, and Tourism Finance Corporation. Mm-hmm. They were all doing developmental finance, but in specific sectors. So one was that we're all carrying out the same mandate, and so government felt, and out of the Abdikadir report of 2013, mm-hmm. in terms of merging some of these parastatals, to bring together KDC to form a larger DFI and a single cross-sector DFI. This has seen us take advantage of a bigger balance sheet, a huge resource capital that has been quite effective in terms of rolling out KDC's strategy, and equally bringing on board and bringing in the confidence of a lot of developmental partners. KDC prides itself of having done previous successful projects with different investors and equally funding various projects that have now even grown and been able to attract private sector capital. Mm-hmm. So KDC has been actually very instrumental within the financial space and in terms of the MSMEs and in terms of supporting MSMEs with different financial products.
Mm-hmm. I mean, when you look at some of the institutions that were merged to create KDC, I mean, institutions like ICDC, Industrial Commercial Development Corporation, IDB Capital, TPF, the Tourism Promotion, Tourism Finance Corporation.
Yes.
I mean, they were created in post-independent Kenya
yes.
to advance credit to the black community, to help them drive industrialization. Is it playing, the new KDC, is it playing this role as well?
Yes, Kimani, I would say that KDC is now even playing that role in a bigger way. Initially, post-colonization, Kenya was actually looking at developing some of these sectors. There was industrialization that we were looking at. There was the tourism industry that we were looking at. So these institutions were formed to actually go ahead and de-risk and catalyze development in terms of these sectors. Which, did it achieve its mandate? Yes, they all did achieve its mandate, because we've seen a lot of private sector capital flow into this space. So there are still emerging sectors that are coming up. I think one of those that the current government is actually focusing on is on the digital and creative economy. That is an emerging sector. There is also the blue economy. These are emerging sectors, where now KDC is still playing its role in terms of going ahead to put in capital to de-risk this sector, so that, again, we attract more investments from the private sector into such space.
And when you look at KDC vis-a-vis the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, which is a key flagship project of the government, where do you fall in?
Good question, Kimani. So the bottom economic transformation agenda is really anchored on various value chains. One of those key value chains is agriculture. Now, agriculture plays a very huge role in terms of our economy. It's one of our highest contributors. I think in the last financial year, 2024, it contributed about 1 trillion Kenya shillings into the economy. That tells you the importance of that sector. Now, this agenda was actually quite well thought out by the government of Kenya. In terms of, we have a lot of small sector players and farmers within the agricultural sector. But one of the huge challenges that these farmers face is post-harvest losses. Kimani, I would shock you to tell you that, but I'm sure this is not even news to you. Kenya actually suffers a loss of about 40% post-harvest losses. And that is sad in terms of the kind of efforts that our farmers are putting in. So one of the key sectors that KDC is focusing on is actually post-harvest losses, in which we are looking at financing, logistics, storage, value addition. Again, we've been an economy that has been exporting a lot of our raw materials from this sector raw, but actually we are now focusing on value add. And equally, another pillar of the bottom-up economic transformation agenda is industrialization, which is at the heart of KDC. We are supporting manufacturing, and part of the support we are giving to manufacturing is that we provide financial solutions. We currently have a line of credit from India that supports investors in Kenya who are looking to transfer technology from India to bring in machinery at a concessional rate. And Brian, the good news about this product is that it's exempt from duty. And so a lot of investors within the manufacturing space can actually benefit and have benefited. So KDC, in terms of playing its mandate and its role in the bottom-up economic beta transformation agenda, is quite well anchored. We equally are looking at the services sector. One of them is tourism. It had been our focus when we had the previous single DFIs. It is still our focus. Remember, tourism is one of our highest foreign exchange earners. However, again, we are coming from a season where a lot of our investments suffered huge losses post-COVID. So we are still in a recovery mode in this sector. So KDC is supporting that. One of also the strategies that the beta transformation agenda looked at is also increasing our conferencing. So KDC is supporting investors in terms of increasing conferencing facilities, and we've seen what that can do. We've seen towns like Naivasha which have grown out of conferencing, and so it's it's good to say that we actually are synchronizing our strategies with the beta transformation agenda.
And I just want to pick it up from where you left in terms of agriculture. You talked about statistics, and they don't lie. 30%, almost 40% in terms of our post-harvest losses, a sector that contributes almost 25% to Kenya's GDP, employing almost 90% of the country's workforce. It's a significant contributor to Kenya's GDP. And so where do you fall within that agricultural value chain?
Good question. So one of the areas that we are supporting, besides the value addition, as I mentioned, we're also looking at these county aggregation industrial parks. I think the government actually has thought through and figured that we need to devolve. Industrialization actually has been devolved. Not everything needs to be processed in Nairobi. The raw materials are actually coming from these counties. So we have all these county aggregation parks. I think all the 47 counties committed. We have 13 so far that have made good progress. Now, KDC, as part of our strategy, sat and looked at and said, okay, fine. So once the parks are ready, then what? So we have been looking at trying to bring in investors and working with the local investors, working with the local county governments to go ahead and operationalize this county aggregation industrial parks, because without them having the necessary machinery, I don't think we shall achieve the objective that we had set out to. So one of the key areas we're looking at within this space is operationalizing the county industrial aggregation parks. We are equally looking at providing financial liquidity through SACCOs and financial institutions, where a lot of these cooperatives and these smallholder farmers are actually members. We've done this through a program called SAFER, which is access to finance post-COVID. It's a post-COVID recovery program in partnership with the World Bank and the National Treasury, where KDC was allocated $55 million, which we've gone ahead to onward lend to various SACCOs. And I can tell you, Kimani, we've actually seen the effect of this kind of financial solution that we've provided. I can actually speak about one of the SACCOs in Murang'a that we supported, that went ahead and supported a cooperative, a local cooperative within Murang'a County, to acquire a milk pasteurization plant. That can tell you what that has done to the farmers within that locality. Because previously, from the conversations we've had with these farmers, is that they used to go ahead and have their milk pasteurized by the private processors. And this, of course, has contributed also to them having to sell their products at a very low price and therefore not making margins. But now we've made it possible for them to increase the shelf life of their product. This is an equipment that they are running as a community, and they're able to all benefit out of it, and equally pay back the facility that they got from the SACCO. So we've seen the benefit of this specific program in terms of what it's also doing to the agriculture sector. And besides that, I think, Kimani, one of the things we've also been tracking is the number of jobs. And as you correctly put it, is that agriculture is one of our highest multiplier sectors in terms of job creation. So if we look at the kind of jobs we've been able to create as KDC out of investing into the agriculture space, post-harvest management, trying to support industrialization, providing access to finance for financial institutions. And again, I must say we've also had climatic solutions, climatic shock solutions. We have a program called DRIVE, which is de-risking the livestock sector, a value chain. This DRIVE is also a World Bank program that was initiated between the State Department of Livestock and KDC and the World Bank. Now, in between 2020 and 2023, Kenya suffered its worst season of drought. And I think you being in the newsroom saw how many livestock we lost at that period. So one of the solutions that was developed is in terms of providing solutions so that these pastoralists are not losing their animals. So KDC is financing livestock investors, those who are aggregating, those who are creating feedlots, to offtake these animals from the pastoralists, to also have aggregation centers where these pastoralists can bring their animals, to provide cheap animal feed, because animal feed has been a critical challenge for this space. And I think that is part of the contribution we are doing in KDC in terms of the agricultural space.
You see, when you go through the bottom-up economic transformation, and then you go to the aggregated document, I mean, it's talk about revamping Kenya's leather value chain with the establishment of various leather subsectors. I mean, industries like the Kenaine leather park in Machakos County. You talked about Drive, which is a product specifically for arid and semi-arid counties. How much have you invested in these counties, and how much do you plan to invest in the medium term?
So far, as I said, this is a $40 million project, which was
40 million. That's about 4.5 billion.
4.5 billion, which was supposed to be invested over a period of 5 years.
From 2022.
From 2022. So far we've done about 2.5 billion.
2.5 billion.
Yes, 2.5 billion.
In how many counties?
We've impacted 23 counties.
23 counties.
Yes, we've impacted 23 counties. And we're not only also just looking at the ASAL counties, we're also looking at the counties that are also producing feeds, because it's important that we connect the two. So feeds production is an important component. But you mentioned a key point. The whole program is supposed to invest in the livestock value chain. One of those value chains is leather and its products. And this has been identified in terms of the government agendas as one of the key sectors for exports. Because I think currently our hides and skins are bought. The products are made.
95% of Kenyan hides are exported as raw.
Yes, they're exported as raw. And that is now what we want to get investors into this space. And we have affordable financing that can support them in terms of this value chain. Our call out is for more investors to get into this space, to get also into the export space, because we are increasing and improving the quality of our meat. So now our meat, and one of the issues had been about traceability, giving it the right nutrients. I believe now farmers are quite educated in terms of that. And we can see that we have an improved product currently. So yes, we are supporting the whole value chain. And key for us would be to speak to having more investors coming in for the leather value chain.
I mean, as an institution, your business is not to give grants, but to offer concessional loans.
Yes.
At below the market's rate. How much have you lent since 2020? So
since, ideally that should be since 2021, when we came
started
into
operation.
That should be about 4 years. So far KDC has done close to over 10 billion.
10 billion shillings.
Yes, and between now and close of financial year, which is June 30th, KDC is targeting to do another 2 billion. So we should be at around 12 billion Kenya shillings in terms of how much we've put in. But Kimani, we don't measure our success based on how much we've input, but based on how much we crowd in. As I mentioned that KDC, we are not in competition with the banks. We are here to complement the banks and the private sector capital by de-risking and therefore attracting private sector capital into it. So part of what, again, we measure as our outcomes as KDC is, with this 10 billion, how much have we also been able to crowd in? And I must tell you, we've been able to crowd in over 50 billion in terms of investments. We've seen investments that we start off and become attractive to banks, and our loans are bought off. And that for us is our pride. It then tells us that we've successfully de-risked these projects.
I know the exchequer is your biggest financier, is it?
Not
Or is it a
necessarily.
mix of,
it's a mix of
but
our
who
resources.
has the biggest chunk?
To be quite honest with you, Kimani, is that since inception, KDC has actually not received exchequer funding.
Oh.
No, we get lines of credit. And that's why coming together and forming a stronger balance sheet made us more attractive.
What is your balance sheet now?
We are past 40 billion. We are now close to 50 billion. So we're able to raise our own money, both internally out of the various investments we've done. So we raise internally generated money out of our various income streams. Again, we definitely get loans, credit lines from these financial partners. We are...
Both local and international?
Yes, mostly actually international partners like the World Bank, the different Exim banks that are looking to also promote their investments into Kenya. So we quite have a mix in terms of our financial resource. Yes.
I just want to hear these, you know, as the Director General of Kenya Development Corporation. I mean, what keeps you awake at night?
What keeps me awake, Kimani, is the current demand that we have as an institution. We are not able to meet it. There is actually a very huge thirst out there for MSMEs who have different innovative products, who have different kind of businesses that they want to be able to be facilitated to get into. So KDC has been looking for ways in which we can be able to raise this money. We are not able to meet the demand, and I must tell you currently, even as I talk about...
What is the demand annually, on average?
On average, we have a demand of close to 20 billion. With
20 billion?
Yes, 20 billion in terms of the various financial requests we get. Vis-a-vis probably a financial allocation within the year of maybe 3 or 4 billion based on what the various lines we have. So I think finding a solution for MSMEs has been one of our greatest challenge, and it would be my joy the day that we are able to ensure that access to finance is no longer a challenge. But I'm glad to report that we have various partnerships that are actually working out. We now are intermediating through financial institutions like banks and SACCOs to provide affordable credit, to provide also the technical assistance, because again, not all businesses are just looking for financial capital. They're also looking for the technical assistance, the technical know-how in terms of where do I get this, how do I do this, how do I structure my business. That is part of, I think, what keeps me up at night. But of course, again... But
you also offer advisory services?
Yes, we give advisory services, which we charge, but again, it's also a service we offer to our existing clients to try and ensure that their loans are performing and that we have that business relationship. We keep saying that we are just not financiers to hand you a check. We are a business partner. We are a development partner. We walk the journey until where we pride ourselves. And I think part of what would be success for us would be eventually seeing a lot of these businesses. And I can tell you we have a lot of individual businesses or family-started businesses that then grow. But what we also don't see as an economy is these businesses then transiting into the capital markets and looking for long-term financing within the capital market space. There maybe businesses are still shy, investors may be shy in terms of getting into the capital markets, but I believe now this is where we should be moving now in terms of our MSMEs and in terms of our businesses in Kenya.
You see, when you look at you know, the portfolio of non-performing loans, you know, within the commercial lending space, you're looking at about 16% on average. Do you have a challenge with that as KDC?
Definitely, and I think the correct figure should be about 23. I think we saw this week where banks were saying the average credit is about 23, 24%. So KDC has created a portfolio. Our non-performing loan book is currently at about 18%. But how we manage this? By ensuring that, one, we get actually the business case correct. We get the assumptions. We test those assumptions. We equally ensure that implementation of these projects, monitoring of these projects are done in good time. We are walking the journey with these clients. We're ensuring that they have access to raw material, that they've actually projected where they're sourcing their raw material, which at times become a challenge to several business. They actually have a market. They've thought through a market for their product. They have actually thought through the whole strategy of the kind of business they're getting into. But that all being said, of course, we'll definitely have businesses that are facing various challenges, which as KDC, again, based on our advisory services, we ensure that we are working with you, not to shut down. Again, we don't want businesses that are closing down. And I keep on saying that KDC is not in the business of selling assets. That is not our key mandate. But again, we are not in the business of losing public money. Yeah. So we try and ensure that our loans are actually paid and they are paid in good time. But we do facilitate and provide good financial solutions and good agreements, partnership agreements in terms of flexibility of repayments for these facilities.
Very good. I mean, if you're just joining us, you're watching Inside Government and we're live from Broadcasting House. We're having a great conversation here with Norah Ratemo. She's the Director General at the Kenya Development Corporation. We're having a great conversation around funding SMEs, deepening industrialization, and of course, helping in the attraction of FDI in Kenya through various value chain. I mean, we are 30 minutes down. We are coming back with the rest 25 minutes of this conversation. You're watching Inside Government. We're taking a short break and thereafter we are back with more stories. Stay right here. Welcome back. You're watching Inside Government. We're in the company of Norah Ratemo, Director General at the Kenya Development Corporation. You were telling me something about the status of your non-performing loans. There's something you wanted to pick up.
Oh, yes. I think part of what government was also looking to resolve was the legacy books. We have loans since the 1950s that KDC still carries it in legacy book. But these are loans that, because by then the Indiplam law had not come into place, it came into place in 2008, that interest was allowed to grow. And so loans of 50,000 have since grown to about $1 million or so. So these are loans that we are currently working with the National Treasury and our State Department of Investments and Ministry of Investments, Trade and Industry to try and resolve and take them through the processes under the PFM Act. But I must say that in our current book as KDC, we've actually seen quite an improvement in terms of our credit risk management.
I want us now to shift gear and talk about the issues of foreign direct investment. I mean, you fall in the State Department for investment, and one of the mandates of the department is to push and drive FDI into the country. Where do you fall in this value chain?
Good question. So KDC invests or does investments using two instruments. We either put in debt or we put in equity. So KDC is open and partners and is a trusted investor with a lot of these international investors. And we come in with our finances to de-risk some of these investments to then attract the private sector capital. So in terms of equity investments, I think KDC is well positioned to work with these international investors to invest in different sectors within the economy, of which we eventually, because our role or our intention in some of these investments is really to de-risk them, to get them to a level where the business is able to also attract private sector investments and for KDC to exit. And that is how you'll hear, I think KDC has the highest number of investments under the privatization program, of which we want to exit out of this program. But we are a good tool that the ministry actually uses in terms of attracting investors into the country.
You talked about divesting in various entities, where you hold a significant chunk. Which entities are these?
We have quite a significant portfolio of investments. KDC is an investor in Isuzu. We're also an investor in Kwal, that is the Kenya Wine Agencies. We're also an investor, we own a chain of hotels. We own Golf Hotel in Kakamega. We own Mombasa
Is it still
Beach.
operational?
Yes, it is still operational. Actually, I think it is one of the best jewels in Kakamega currently. It's been able to maintain its clientele. We are also in the insurance space. We own Minet. So we have a varied portfolio, and which we want to also expand. I think currently we are looking at getting into investments within the tea and coffee space, and this is out of equity investments, that then we will see, and I don't know whether it is me and you, Brian, who will be able to see the returns out of these investments, because currently we're also reaping investments that were done in the 50s. So KDC is actually well positioned in terms of working with these international investors to do big investments in the country.
And when you look at government push to drive up the foreign direct investments, and the target is to get to about 2.5 to 3 billion shillings in a couple of years. What role do you see KDC playing in this?
Well, we have various roles, Kimani, I must say. One of the roles that KDC has is that we can package these investments, which we have done. Because I think when this government was coming into office, one of the things that the Ministry of Investments, Trade and Industry did was carry out roadshows in different destinations. So one of the services we offer as KDC is business advisory services. So we can put together various investments, and I think we're working with different entities to assist investors in packaging and getting the investor pitch. Because at the end of the day, you need to sell your investment. As an investor, they need to know what is in it for them, what returns do they expect, what risks are there in the investments. Besides that, there is also the capital that we can put in. I think one of the strategic investments that we're also doing is within the green space. KDC, in partnership with World Bank and our State Department of Investment, is setting up what we are calling a green fund. Now, KDC is going in with a junior tranche of about $40 million, which is the seed capital. And we are trying to entice other international DFIs like us or investors and pension funds to come in and take the senior tranche. Reason why we're going in with the junior tranche is because we want to be able to de-risk that investment. And so we have capped our returns. We have taken a backseat in terms of even allowing the other partners to first reap their returns before KDC can thereby get its return. And this is what now KDC can position itself and has positioned itself with different investors to partner, because we give you the comfort. And of course, we are also a trusted partner, given that we are fully owned by the government of Kenya.
And when you look at, various sectors, from agriculture, manufacturing, health, tourism, which sectors do you see are ripe for more FDIs in Kenya?
There are different sectors, there are those emerging sectors, like I said. There's the blue economy space that is actually picking up, and we've seen counties that are within this blue economy sector are actually trying to put together incentives and investments for investors to take up. But equally, I think where there's still great opportunity that has not been fully explored is within the agriculture sector and within the industry space, manufacturing space. Healthcare is also an opportunity. I mean, at the end of the day, we still don't have enough infrastructure in terms of health facilities. Government is playing its role, but of course we need private sector to come in. I think one of the areas we're looking at KDC in terms of supporting investors in this healthcare space is looking at diagnostic centers, looking at producing our drugs here locally, and we reduce the importation of drugs. So there are various opportunities. The digital economy, the creative economy is also another emerging space that investors can come in with their capital. I mean, Kenya is a destination where filmmaking happens. We have our good scenic views in our parks. So there are various opportunities, I believe. Again, technology. Kenya is the Silicon Savannah of Africa. So there is great opportunity, and M-Pesa has been able to show that Kenya is actually can take a lead in terms of the technology space. So I believe that we have various opportunities, and these opportunities are being packaged, and I believe Kenya is actually looking at putting together a deal book, and once that deal book has these investments, then we'll find that it's easy for investors to identify opportunities in Kenya, and therefore we see foreign currency coming in.
You talked about manufacturing as well as industrialization. When you look at Kenya's industrial agenda, we plan to uplift the contribution of manufacturing to GDP from about 9.3% to about 15% in 2027. Is this an area that you're looking at, getting investors to get into in an aggressive way?
Heavily, I must say, absolutely, Kimani. This is what is going to drive this economy. This is what is going to make a difference for our country. I think this cannot have been said any better, and you can see the focus that government is actually giving in terms of industrialization, the incentives, the tax benefits that it's pushing towards this space, the different credit lines, like the Indian Exim is a negotiated credit line between Kenya and Indian government. And one of the incentives is that it comes in without duty. You're able to bring your machinery without with VAT exemption and duty to incentivize for our local investors to do more of manufacturing. So manufacturing, and I think transfer of technology. There's still a lot of technology transfer that Kenya has a very big opportunity for. And the raw material is here with us. I believe we are a market that a lot of this manufacturers are coming in to try and get this raw material. But Kenya is now at the stage where we want to do our value addition here. And we can see the government has gone ahead to set up these special zones, like the export promotion zone and the special economic zones, purposefully for these investors to come in and do their manufacturing here within our economy, and for us to be able to get that benefit within this sector and within this space. So I believe there is still opportunity within the manufacturing sector. And then again, it is one of the highest job creating sectors. So when we talk about job creation, and now I think we've moved out of just creating jobs, we're also looking at creating quality jobs. That the casual worker has also social protection, and we've seen what the government has done in terms of that. So it is a key sector still, and I think it having been anchored as one of the pillars in the beta transformation agenda was quite key for us as a country.
I'll be reading some of the questions, 2 or 3 questions that people are posting here, but I want to hear this from you. The government is looking keenly into tapping the opportunities that lies within, the MSME sector. Are you in that space as well?
Very much so. We are in that space, and we work, and those are our clients, and they are the drivers of this economy. We would be lost in terms of our strategy if we didn't focus on the MSME. They're the engine of this economy. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we have different products for MSMEs, and one of the key ones that we've had, which is the $55 million that we are intermediating through financial institutions. SACCOs, we are providing liquidity to these financial institutions at an affordable rate for them to deploy this capital to the MSMEs, because we understand that these MSMEs are the driver. I think one of the success stories I have had out of this is during COVID. I think there is one barber who pitched to us and demonstrated to us how he used to go around in a motorbike to different homes, because at that time, of course, COVID, everyone wanted to ensure that they are safe.
He was a mobile barberman.
So he was a mobile barberman. But this barberman has since been able to open 2 branches and employ over 10. And this is just, and the only equipment he got, I think our equipment's worth 40,000. But that can tell you in terms of the kind of capital we deploy, and it speaks to the bottom up economic transformation agenda.
Allow me to read 2 or 3 questions. I mean, this is coming from Walter Ombeta at Walter Ombeta. That is your handle on Twitter or X. And you're asking, do you lend to border riders and mama mbogas? That's a question that I would want you to respond. Then there is Shakil Ahmed. You're saying you're from Malindi, and you are asking, how much do I qualify as an individual if I want to set up a hotel in Malindi?
Those are great questions. So to your first question, which is to Mbeta's question on whether we support the mama mbogas, we do. And as I've said, we intermediate this. We are providing financial intermediation. We are providing financial capital to SACCOs, to microfinance institutions. And you know, these bodas, these mama mbogas are constantly contributing to they are members of these different SACCOs. So by us providing liquidity to these SACCOs, we are ensuring that money is getting to them at an affordable rate, and this we've been able to track. And we do track to ensure that they are actually benefiting out of this. To the second question, in terms of how much Shakil would qualify for, it really depends on the kind of hotel that she's doing, but the minimum amount that we lend as KDC, we start off at 3 million Kenya shillings, and we lend up to 500 million Kenya shillings. So it is as how ambitious her plan is and how bankable the project is.
As we wind up, Norah, can you take us through the steps of applying for a facility at KDC?
Our steps are quite easy. So we are on the eCitizen platform, which has made services very accessible to a lot of Kenyans. You can also go to our website and download the loan application forms. What you actually need, depending on what kind of application you're making, because we have different products, we have working capital, we have project finance, we equally have asset finance. So depending on the kind of facility you're looking at, we'll of course need the normal documentation, your ID, your company documents. Most importantly is that we would need you to speak to us with a business plan. What do you want to do? Give us financial projections, present to us a business case, which we can be able to then understand. And once we go through this business case, we are then able to give you a term sheet, and we proceed to appraisal. And once we give you an offer letter, you perfect, and we release the money, and we start the journey.
Very good. That is the process.
That's
in 30 seconds, your final and closing remarks.
So one is, of course, to thank the government of Kenya for their visionary leadership, and in particular our cabinet secretary, Honorable Lee Kinyanjui, in terms of the support and in terms of what they are doing in supporting MSMEs in this economy. We are looking at trade. We are looking at creating markets for our SMEs products. We are looking at enhancing value for the kind of products and agricultural products that we are producing. Would also like to commend His Excellency the President, Dr. Ruto, for anchoring the transformation agenda for this country on the beta transformation agenda. But our clarion call to investors is that Kenya is open for business. KDC is ready to work with you as a financial partner. Yeah. We are ready to offer financial solutions. So we are found at Uchumi House, 17th floor. Our doors are open. We not only provide financial solutions, we also offer technical and business advisory solutions. So we are encouraging Kenyans to reach out to us. Let's walk this journey and make our country better.
Very good.
Thank you.
Norah Ratemo, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Kimani, for having me.
Norah Ratemo is the Director General at the Kenya Development Corporation, joining us tonight to give us a sneak preview of what the corporation is doing to advance Kenya's industrialization agenda, as well as our FDI agenda. You have heard it from us. You have been watching Inside Government. Remember, the Prime Edition is coming up next. Thank you for your time. Good night. Bye for now.